Good morning, good afternoon, welcome to Javelin Technologies. My name is Delvin and today I'll be your host on Wired Wednesdays. Today's topic is P&ID with SOLIDWORKS Electrical. Now, a typical or a common schematic documentation from my experience has been you tend to have a logical definition or just a higher level layout of how things are going to be in your particular system. And then you get into something like part selection. If you have any layouts, you get into layouts. And once you sort of have your overview done and your drawings done, you need to start documenting this. Now, documenting can be in the form of reports, bill of materials, wire, cable lists, pipe lists, you name it, and you will require to update those as you change your drawings. Now, the last stage of this documentation process typically revolves around auditing all of this. So if you make some change in the logic of your drawing, your schematic changes, the documentation, the reports change, and overall you got to verify and ensure that there is quality in your deliverables. With SOLIDWORKS Electrical, the first part becomes a lot faster. We are just focusing on the engineering aspect of this, of your documentation. And the latter part is completely automated. Definitely this reduces time spent. It also eliminates any human intervention which might exist with all your design processes. Now, to kind of summarize what I just explained, let's take a look at one of these, a contact and a relay arrangement. What happens over here is if I'm going to update this particular component, it's going to go in and change the reports on the power cabling, the control wiring. It's going to go and update the bill of materials. You have to go ahead and change terminal drawings, symbol attributes. Overall, you're looking at a total of 48 audits for just one device. What that means is if you've got more than 10 devices, that almost quantifies really fast. So at the end of the day, change management is a very key aspect within SOLIDWORKS Electrical. Let's get into our demonstration. So we're going to start off by trying to automate some of our mundane tasks over here. I have SOLIDWORKS Electrical open in front of me. This is our standalone interface which can work independent of SOLIDWORKS. What this means for you as a designer, that you can keep your schematic documentation separate from your 3D or mechanical designs in that space. Now, as we sort of build into this, we also have our mechanical space where the project is open over here. You can still see the same drawings, and if I decided to open any of the drawing sheets, you can see exactly what's going on within the schematic documentation. So now this is bi-directional, so you can make changes in one system and it reflects onto the other systems. This is the electrical component of how our design is going to look. We've got two locations in there. We have two motors that have been placed. I'm going to go in and start working on the P&ID segment, and I do need to add some components in here, make some off-page connections. So this is a schematic representation over here of your P&ID. We've got a couple of components in place. I'm going to go ahead and start off by adding the pump. So in here, if I decided to simply look for a pump, there's a variety of pumps available. So I'm going to scroll down and look for something a little bit more relevant to what I need. So this looks like the pump I want to use. I simply double click on it and bring her in. Now, as soon as I bring, you'll see it's going to neatly snap along any of the points that are placed on this grid. I also have the option on the left-hand side to change the symbol mid-selection. If I change my mind, I can go ahead and change the symbol and I can place it. So I'm going to just simply place this over here. All right. Now that I've placed my pump, I can go ahead and also give it a description. So let's just say pump, keep it very generic. I have the option of placing in a specific location so that I know from a 3D perspective where physically this particular component is going to be placed for interaction purposes. And get back into the manufacturing side of things. I want to add a manufacturing information to this. So I can hit search, and in my manufacturing information, I've made a couple of pumps over here, so I'm just going to use one of these, add that information. Okay, so as soon as you do that, you can search and add the information, or you can step away and you can add this information over here by simply clicking on OK. Now, I've added the pump and it sort of has all the information I need, but I also have an electrical representation on the other page which I just spoke about. So if you look over here, it turns out I already have pump 2 sitting in place. So I can go ahead and either instantaneously simply change this over, and if I click on pump 2, it will automatically inherit the pump 2's properties and it'll become a perfect match. So I can switch the tags really easily, but the component ensures that it's always going to create new components and there's no duplication as you're inserting new components. So it looks like it. I've got my pump information over there. I can, if I want to, take a look at a higher level representation to see how everything is connected. So this is what my electrical system looks like. I've got 2 pumps, got some terminal breakers and some other, I got terminals in there, got some breakers in there. Overall, that's my system. It's really simple. Just placed a couple of components. And now I'm going to start making some pipe connections. To make pipe connections, I'm going to borrow some of the product's existing features and start making connections. So I have the option of picking electrical, hydraulic, pneumatic, or piping. I've picked up the piping segment. I'm going to use a working line, and I'm going to draw right through. So now as soon as I draw, I have the option of then continuing the second segment and making my connections. So with that, I've just made my connection. I can go ahead and update the black box. With that, it's going to automatically increment and add a connection point for me. So this should make my life a little easier. On the right and left side, I still need to add some more valves. I'm simply going to go in here and we're looking for a ball valve. So as soon as I search for the component, I can place it. Inherently, it's going to create a new device tag, add some manufacturing information, and then I can search from the existing library and it'll bring in that information. Now, before I place this component completely, I can also go ahead and give it some more description, or if it had some spec information, it would inherit that from the manufacturing part. So over here, we're just going to call this a ball valve. And that should be completed over there. Now, with this, I've made my connections, I've placed my component, everything's great. In SOLIDWORKS Electrical, you can copy and you can paste. And with that, it almost instantaneously goes ahead and creates a new component, new device tag, copies most of the information over, and you don't have to worry too much about the manufacturing information and any other information if you've made a copy-paste. There will be no duplicates because the system ensures quality as it builds right through. So as we're about to near the process of completing and adding some more components, I can always right-click onto this and I can check and see where else this component is placed. And with that, it'll sort of keep mapping it out for me, and I can keep going again and taking a look to see what the electrical system looks like. So it's really straightforward. The application is very intuitive to most extent. You can go ahead and create or use any information. Now there is a feature in SOLIDWORKS Electrical called as macros, where you could simply, group select objects such as these and drag and, you can drag and drop them into a database. It would create a unique entity. You could assign it a library, give it some description such that when you search for these parameters, or repeated data as such, you're able to bring up the macro most relevant to your design process. So with that, you've just created a new entity which can be reused against another project, and also you can have access and collaboration between other designers. So with that, I've now created my macro. We can take this macro a next level, we can step it up a little bit. You can either create multi-page macros. So over here we call them project macros. So you can simply copy an entire block of pages, ensure they're repeated, so that way you don't have to worry about duplicates. The system automatically takes care as it inserts them into projects. Or one of my favorites, and also a recent favorite among most of our customers, is Excel automation. So what is Excel automation? With Excel automation, you as a designer have access. You can simply create something like this, like an Excel sheet. And you can go ahead and refer the macro from the database directly. You can decide the position and placement of these macros, the type of sheet, what the description of the sheet's going to have. So in this case, let's say we cut paste these. They should pretty much get added into your drawings. Along with that, you can define locations, functions of these devices, and just other subtle details that are required to make sure your design is seamless. One of them is also manufacturing information. So as the manufacturing information is being generated, you can also define what kind of system or parts are going to go onto it. So you can have variations or configurations of your system. So in this case, let's say I did a 3 kilowatt system. It automatically updates based on the parts available. So if I now click on Save and go back into SOLIDWORKS Electrical, I have my project over here which only has 2 sheets in it, the cover page and drawing list. I can then go up to the Import Tool function and simply use Excel automation to import any of the changes. So if you recollect from our change in the Excel sheet, we should now see a 3 kilowatt motor that gets added to the project. So this can be represented with any form of the designs, and it makes life really easy as you keep building them. This definitely speeds up the process to quite an extent, so making your designs really efficient. So I'll step away from that for just a moment. We've spoken about some very advanced features, some very basic features. One of the things that our customers definitely love is also the off-page referencing. Now, off-page referencing is usually managed by a tool called the Origin and Destination Manager. What this does is it simply connects information as per your mouse movements. Now, the good thing is if you've got a 2-inch pipe and a 4-inch pipe, it's able to differentiate. It uses the system's backend for tracking different type of signals as such. So it uses the same electrical model to kind of make sure that your P&ID information is maintained really well. So I'm going to close it. I've made my connection. And the great thing is if you double click onto this information is hyperlinked, so you can go between page to page. So at this stage, I still do need to go ahead and add some more piping information. So I can select the entity and click on it, and also go in there and simply say, number new wires and recalculate existing marks, or just recalculate wires selected in the scheme. So it does treat them as wires, at least in the system backend, but from a front end, you can then go ahead and modify the representation to kind of show you any of the information. So over here I have, I have my schedules. I have my pipes in place. I just don't know what material it's going to be, so I can update the material right now. So let's say this particular material we'll put up as PVC. So once you put that information in there, you can also go ahead and ensure that your connections are made between your devices, and it almost reflects seamlessly as you tend to go from page to page. So in the 3D segment, this is SOLIDWORKS. So if you're already a mechanical user, you're familiar with how some of this information works. Now, as the information is being generated and there's collaboration between both systems, your drawings should automatically populate, and you should be able to zoom in and zoom out and see what components are being placed. Also, your component tree, electrical component tree, based on how the information is separated over locations, will appear to you. So over here, I'm going to go and place my pump 2. So as soon as I do that, my pump is placed, and I'm going to go ahead and simply start routing over here. So the routing that I'm going to do in this particular environment is a little bit different than the standard SOLIDWORKS electrical environment. I'm going to be borrowing the SOLIDWORKS routing engine. So I'm going to be doing some piping routing. To do piping routing, you simply right-click onto any of these devices or components, and you can start the route. So as you start the route, it's going to pull up the configurations, the pipe in inches and schedule that you're going to use, and simply refer to some of the configurations in place. So with that, you can then go ahead and start drawing. So let's take a couple of seconds over here to sketch this out. So I've drawn my pipe out a little bit to ensure that everything is good. I'm going to go ahead and then continue that. All right. Make sure it sits on my pipe hanger over there. Now, all right. So just keep continue drawing this till we have a little bit more. So as long as I got it in place, it will complete the operation. All right. So once you have the operation completed, you'll end up getting all the pipes and the bends in place. And as you do that, you can also go ahead and then insert other components. So in this case, let's say I right-click on this, and we're going to, that's right, it looks like I clicked on the entire plane. I'm going to right-click on the pipe, and we're going to edit this route. So if we decide to edit this route, we can then also go ahead and insert the ball valve. To insert the ball valve, you simply have to let it snap onto the pipe, and that should be carried over. Okay, so we've completed some segment of our drawings over here, and this information is now, you have your collaboration from electrical to mechanical. So the application can either allow you to insert components based on reference links and help you continue on with your piping, and you can also get by doing other connections by simply doing a standard SOLIDWORKS insert. But at the end of the day, you can seamlessly manage your components and your projects between SOLIDWORKS and SOLIDWORKS Electrical. So coming back to SOLIDWORKS Electrical over here, we now have our reporting tool. In the reporting tool, as I go ahead and I start building all of this, you'll see that the bill of materials essentially captures the valves that we copy-pasted, the new pump that was put in. All of the information automatically populates. This is really simple. So as you're doing your design, your reports are being generated in the back end. So same thing with the pipe listing. So you can go in here and you can have some of that information already done. As you're making your connections, the information is being generated. Now this is a really robust tool, so you have the option to go ahead and create or use existing reports to sort of generate more core features that are relevant to your reporting patterns. Also, because SOLIDWORKS Electrical is such a powerful tool, you have the option to go ahead and adjust columns as you see fit to sort of give you a better representation. You can add more information depending on what you want to see. Also, with our SQL backend, because everything is managed in the database, we have the option of making changes to the query directly. So you have a lot of flexibility available as a designer or someone who likes to ensure that you're optimizing your design process and not wasting time, searching for information, creating information. If your reports are still being done in Excel manually, or at the end of the day, all of this information is just being generated as you see fit. You can also create filters, which would be subset of these reports, so you can get information based off of report, and they mostly run in Boolean operations when you use a filter. I'm going to go ahead and generate drawings, and I can generate drawings for that particular report. And as I do that, the application is going to refer to a title block and put this information in a title block. The good thing is it also gives out other formats like Excel export, text export, and XML. So it really depends on what kind of system you want to push this information to, and the application allows just for that. So let's take a look and see what the bill of materials looks like, and then you want to take a look at the list of pipes. It breaks them based on certain regions and requirements. At the end of the day, it's a really powerful tool. What you put into the system is what you will get out of the system. Also, because it's a Windows environment, you can drag, drop, rearrange, you can create your own folder structure, you can give it to quite a level of degree of representation as you would like to see it in production. Now, the last thing that I like to capture typically is also our import-export process, and before I get to that, I'm just going to quickly do a recap from what we've seen so far. In SOLIDWORKS Electrical, you have controlled automation, be it for devices, drawing sheets, terminal layouts, or it's fast and easy to use. Even with P&ID, it reduces rework. It makes it really simple when you're using macros. Heart and soul of everything is a part number. A part number sort of references down to single line representation, schematic representation, 3D models, footprints, and also terminal or connection information. At the end of the day, if you have an ERP system or an MRP system, it's fairly easy to connect to get other metadata information linked to your parts. Now, if you have, like we already went through some of this, but it's simple to create your piping routing layouts, and it's intelligent. When you want to add intelligence to electrical models on the 3D side of things, you can flatten and do harness layouts, you can flatten and do flattened pipe layouts. And essentially, at the end of the day, if you simply want to stick to old school electrical design, you can also do panel layouts. But the beauty in all of this is there is consistency between the 2D and 3D information. All in all, your reports are automated. There's a lot of intelligence available in it. There's also reports called for design rule checks to ensure you haven't missed any information or misrepresented any of your information. And at the end of it all, when you decide to either, you can import DWGs or Excel information, but you can publish to eDrawings, DWG, or export to PDF. I'm going to export to PDF, and as I export it to PDF, I can simply go ahead and select one of these. It's going to replace it, and let's take a second and see what that looks like. All right, so while that's generating over there, in just a second, we should be able to see that report. There's our report. So there's a drawing over there. You can click on these. So even if you email some of this information over to somebody and they're trying to troubleshoot how these systems work, they do a really good representation of carrying over the hyperlink information. You can also click on the symbols and it'll take you between page to page to see where they're connected. Your componentry, your drawing information, your reports, they all show up in this particular fashion, making design really simple. At the end, it is a complete solution. We have automation at the start as you're designing stuff. Your reports are also automated at the end, and you have very easy 3D representations with SOLIDWORKS interfaced into it. Next steps is let's talk about the design process, manufacturing process, how we can help you, areas of improvement. We do have good plans in place for discussing ROI, implementation, and training. And we definitely provide measurable and actionable plans as you are interacting with new CAD systems. Please feel free to reach out to us at our website, javelin-tech.com. Once again, thank you for joining me. I'm going to